right, we are here, and by we, I mean myself and Rhyme Style, for a somewhat of a podcast on just the state of trading card games, like just discussions in general about certain things that are happening. We've been talking a lot back and forth, and I was like, you know, it'd be really cool is if we just like made a video and like just talked like we do over text and like voice message and stuff, and just made a video out of it and just talked about some certain stuff. So we have some topics we'll go through.
This is missing in the community.
I feel like it doesn't really, a lot of things just people just don't really talk about. So we're going to try to talk about them.
It's not that they don't talk about it. People talk about it. It's just not there on like a mass scale.
A video format. Right. Right. So it's like they're talking between each other.
Yeah. With the education missing, a lot of people just misinform a lot and they don't realize it. And they're not doing it out of malice. It's just no one really knows. So we're hoping to kind of answer these questions in these videos.
If you have a question you want us to answer, maybe we'll do an episode 2 if you really like this, and we can maybe answer your question, try to talk about our perspective on whatever that question is. So feel free to put those comments down below or just email them to me. My email's in the description. It's rodneyruxin34@gmail.com. All right. My first thing I had written down, this is not super new right now. This is a couple weeks ago, but I just wrote, Twitter thinks Stampede sucks. I want to hear what you think about this.
I feel like this is so dated because we're already on A-List. Stampede is fine.
It's a little dated, but it's also relevant because this comes up a lot with different sets.
I think Stampede is fine. And the only reason why is because this is the issue with Twitter and Yu-Gi-Oh! In my opinion, is like people will be offended at the one little thing that's aimed at them and not really think about the overall grand scheme of things. So for example, like the reason why people were pissed off about Stampede at first, I don't know if it still is. I mean, for all we know, Stampede is considered a classic today. I don't really know. Time changes, and what's an opinion today is a different opinion tomorrow. The second you check that entire gigantic list of cards and you don't see like Drew Swarm or you don't see like Cashier Fenrir or Unicorn, you're like, oh, this entire set sucks. It's like, we're dismissing the entire set word. Bro, this set has a lot of important cards that need to be reprinted today. We even got the return of Dragon Master Magia, which people cried about not being able to get, and they can finally get it. What do you mean the set sucks now? What are we talking about, bro?
Exactly. It's all about, you have your specific cards that you really want, and if those don't make it or a couple cards don't make it, this 300 card set is now just bad.
Yeah, you're being selfish as a player. You're the selfish one here. It's not that the set sucks. You can be disappointed, but like to say the set sucks when it fills in so many holes that's missing in GOAT, in Edison, in Teledad, whatever formats are out there still being played because people play formats with their friends. Like this set literally fills in those gaps. What are we talking about?
It feels like there is not much middle ground between an amazing set and it sucks. Like for people, it feels like this set is amazing, like Bonanza. Like everybody loved it. It was great. But then Stampede just sucks. Like it's not like just not as good as Bonanza, which I think we can agree it's probably not as good as Bonanza. But it's still a really good set.
It's better than Bonanza. And no,
you think it's better than Bonanza?
I'll tell you why. It's because we got the alt arts, and I think the alt arts just make the set more fun. Obviously, this is the one that came out in Japan, but the alt arts are just, it makes it a bit more fun. And honestly, alt arts I think are good because alt arts give you more chances to get a card, which can also further drive down the prices of the other versions of the card. So if you want to play the cool Veiler, the new Veiler, or the old Veiler, like the prices are going to go down overall. It's a good thing.
I haven't. You're actually bringing up another topic I want to talk about, but I was really excited to see these alt arts in here. Some people have a problem with it though because they're only available in QCR. How do you feel about that?
I think that's fine. Here's the thing that's interesting about Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh is struggling so hardcore right now, and I'm holding up the Magia again because like Yu-Gi-Oh in any trading card, a lot of people, you're either a collector or you're a player. Yu-Gi-Oh has been heavily like weighed to the players for like the last decade really, because like a lot of people that grew up with the game, we don't recognize these cards anymore. Like we like Magia because we see, you know, Ultimate Dragon and the Dark Magician of Chaos on top of it. That's something that can like attract you to as a collector. But like the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is it's mostly just being played. And what I like about the Stampede release is there's something to kind of hunt for and also add some kind of like value as a collector in case you pull those alt arts. That makes sense.
I'm with you on that. I saw the complaining about, oh no, the alt arts are QCR only, this sucks. I'm actually really a big fan of it because the alt arts are already widely available in cheaper versions than the old art.
You don't need the alt arts. It's a luxury, but it's a cool luxury. Like the thing that Yu-Gi-Oh is hardcore missing today is that collectible aspect. And a lot of people don't realize, which I know is another topic we're gonna talk about, the difference between collectible and playable in Yu-Gi-Oh. Like one of my biggest pet peeves, for example, when Rarity Collection 1 came out, people were pulling Ash Blossom like, do I grade this? No. Don't grade that card. Nobody wants a graded copy of Ash Blossom, and ignore the giant Ash Blossom I have on my wall. That was a trophy because I won the Master Duel Invitational 2 years ago. It's the only reason why I have that. I hate Ash Blossom, but it's a cool trophy. But like, nobody wants to collect hand traps. We hate hand traps. They ruin our day. Stop grading those. Stop grading Fuvalos. Stop grading Perulia. Sell the cards. It's expensive because it's playable.
Listen to what he just said. This is a big thing that we were talking about. They were like, I feel like we have been talking about this specifically for like 6 months. Like, I get messages like, hey man, I graded this this Ash Blossom Ultimate Rare. It's a PSA 9. Do you want it? It's like, it doesn't even matter what the grade is. And I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I just don't want it. I just don't think there's a market for it. Like, the reason that card is expensive is because of what it does in the deck. And guess what? When it's in a slab, it can't be in a deck. It's literally impossible.
You know what I do?
You have to crack it out.
Rux, you know what I do? I buy
PSA 9s cheaper. I know what you do.
So let's look at Ash Blossom, for example. Ash Blossom, when I finally caved and bought my QCRs, they were $150 a piece. Really expensive. Yeah. But I'm also, again, luxury. You don't need the luxury. It's sometimes you want it. I'm unfortunately a collector who also plays, so it's like it's a bad mix, which makes you spend more money for max rarity. When I bought my Ash Blossoms, unfortunately I didn't do this correctly. I bought the cards and then I looked online. And I saw a couple of PSA 9s on eBay that were less than the raw card. Yeah. Because here's the mentality people have with cards. If a card you pull, let's say you pull a card, it's $100, right? People have a mentality right now where it's like, oh, $100 card. If I grade it, it's gonna be $500. No, that's not how it works. The only reason why it's more is because there are collectors who want that. So that's why the logic kind of makes sense. But in a situation with Ash Blossom, if an Ash Blossom is $100, it's not $100 because it's collectible. It's $100 because everybody wants that card or that rarity, and that's what drives the price up. Just because you put it in a slab doesn't necessarily mean the price goes up. Now, you might find that one person that's like, I don't want to collect all Ash Blossoms. Like, look, here's the thing about me. My favorite card of all time, this card right here. I am probably the only person on the planet that actually collected a PSA 10 QCR DFL star. We do exist, but it's not as something as exciting as, you know, getting like one of these or getting one of these. Like, I'm showing my cool cards off right now. The point is like, we'll collect the stuff that we grew up with, but like the reason why modern cards are expensive, it's not because they're collectible or because they're rare, it's because they're playable. A good example actually is Appaloosa. Appaloosa, as a Starlight, came out in a time where pulling Starlights was like one per 3 cases? Yeah,
it was one in 25 boxes. So it was like 2 cases in a box. So it was like crazy rare.
So
that was for a Starlight. There was 4 Starlights in the set, so you had to open that times 4.
So
it's like
the chances of pulling Appaloosa was pretty low. But there's still, again, people who want the max rarity. So the only reason why Appaloosa was like a $1,000 card was because it was so hard to pull and people wanted to play that max rarity. It wasn't $1,000 because it was like a super crazy collector's value that, you know, people wanted to collect. I mean, again, you might get that one person here and there, but like it's not like a mass popular card. And we could even argue that people hate Appaloosa if it hits the field. So it's a card that people don't want to see, period. That's why when Appaloosa was released as an alt art, also in QCR, the original one just died, got eviscerated. Yeah. And the value is still kind of high for that card because, again, now it's a lot less exists and it's a lot harder to pull, obviously. But it didn't go from $1,000 to like $400 because like, oh, the value dollar, the card crashed. No, it got banned. The card is forbidden. You can't play it.
Yeah, there's like a fine line, I think, between when a playable card is at a certain price and you grade it. Like at what point, like with Ash Blossom, $150, if you grade that and you get a PSA 10, you're not going to get a huge premium on that. But for certain high rarity cards, you might be able to actually get a premium. Like if it's like a $50 QCR and you grade a PSA 10, you can probably get a premium on it. It just depends on what card it is. And when you get into those crazy ones, like you're talking about Appaloosa, like that card got almost like infamous for how expensive it was. And I think people kind of lost the narrative of why it was expensive. And then they started grading them. And people are buying like PSA 10s. And then like it gets banned and everybody's like, what happened?
Exactly.
Well, in the end of the day, it's a playable card.
I want it to be clear. Some people still do exist that might want those specific cards.
Yeah, there is a market of collectors who want to collect these cards that we're saying are not necessarily collector pieces, like Ash Blossom, Appaloosa. There are people that are going to buy those, but the price isn't going to be super high because there's not a lot of people that are trying to collect those.
I saw a PSA 10 Diabellus pop up and I sniped it immediately. It was on eBay for 3 seconds. I paid $300 and that card is like $40. I probably could have bought a $40 card myself and just submitted it, but I saw it for $300. I'm like, you know what? I don't mind paying $300. That's how it works when it comes down to like the collector mindset. If the card is like not super crazy expensive and it's max grade, you're gonna buy it. But like with stuff like this, no one likes hand traps with an asterisk. Because like I said, for me liking Diabellstar and Diabells, you might have that one person that wants all the Ghost Sisters at PSA 10. It's just not a highly sought after card unless we're talking about the classics. That's why Dark Magician Girl keeps getting reprinted every 3 months. That's why Blue Eyes and Dark Magician keep coming back every 3 months. It's not only are you hitting the people that potentially want to play the card today, to the ones who play like the anime decks, but you're hitting the people who grew up with like, oh snap, I remember this. I want this. This is hype. Like,
yeah, and they want a PSA 10 for like $75 out of the Mega 10. They're like, that's not too expensive. I can afford that. It's one card that I remember. And another thing to remember is there is something to be said about like not having to do the grading process and deal with all of that. Yeah. So like if you actually want the card in your collection and you're like, this Ash Blossom is up for $250 for a PSA 10. I could buy one for $150 and grade it. But then like, what if I don't get a 10? You're like, you know what? I'll just buy it. You know, like with you, you're like, I could do it myself, but I want this Diabellstar now. So I was like, I'll just take it.
It's funny you say that because I've been trying to grade this card and I am now 0 for 3 on Diabell, Queen of the White Forest. There's no PSA 10 spot for this. PSA 9 is the highest that exists and I have that 9. I have found 3 of the cleanest copies of this card and it keeps getting low grades. This is clean. I bought this from Sassy. What do you mean it's a PSA 7? What do you mean? Anyways, if anybody actually submits this card and gets a 10, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. If you get a Diabellstar or PSA 10, or if any sort of related card.
Queen of the White Forest.
No, I'm saying any related Diabellstar, Diabell, whatever the card is, if you don't have it, he'll probably hit you up.
Hey, but just to be clear, I'm like probably one of the only people, very, very small percentage of people that wants this card. So don't just think, oh, Diabell's a popular card. Let me just start buying a bunch of these and then make hella money. You probably won't. I'll probably be the only person who'll buy this if it pops up on eBay. Yeah,
that's another thing is these cards are going to have low pops just because there's not a lot of people interested in them. So not a lot of people are going to grade them. So it's kind of a weird balance of like, I have like the only one, but can I find the couple people who actually want it to actually sell it to them?
I'm glad you said that because I know that's your next talking topic too, if it's on this list. Pop report.
Yeah.
So right now in Pokemon, this is one of the most popular cards. We have the Prismatic Evolution Umbreon. People are, this card alone is so crazy that it made Prismatic Evolution unfindable. You can't find it. We got lucky. We found a single ETB. We bought a single ETB actually. And we happened to pull the Umbreon. This is like pop 1,500. Probably even 2,000 now since it came out. And it's only been out for like 2 months or something like that. That's a lot. And people are buying this.
Yugioh especially.
Well, we're going to get to that. People are buying this card for like $3,000 for some reason.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is the card is pretty, I will say that. But also I feel like people are just getting FOMO now where they're like, if I don't get this now, tomorrow's gonna be worth $10,000. Yes and no, it all comes down to supply and demand. Now, what happens, Ruxin, if this card 5 years from now is popped 20,000 as a PSA 10? What happens when all 20,000 people decide, you know what, I'm gonna cash out, I'm gonna sell this? What do you think happens to the price of that card?
It's gonna go way down.
Now, the reason why these cards, you don't have to really worry about that much is because the pop report is insane. This is literally a pop 4 right here. This is the Typhlosion from Neo Genesis. This is a pop 4. Since 2000, since the year 2000, only 4 PSA 10s ever have been graded. With this Yugioh, pop 45. When I pulled this in 2019, 2018, it was pop 41. So this is the 41st PSA 10 Yugioh that came out. Since then, 6 years later, 7 years later,
total.
Now it's 45, which means we got 4 new ones. The reason why this card and its height has sold anywhere, its height sold for $129,000, and then I think the average price was like between 50 to 70, is because so little exists. So the people that have a lot of money will do anything they can to get this card. So that makes sense. If only 45 exists and there's millions of fans and only so little can have it, and once we have money, we'll get it. High price. However, when we're looking at cards like this, and there's literally thousands of these, like a week after it comes out, this is not exactly a quote-unquote investment piece you think you're getting. If you're collecting it because the card is cool, you love the art, you love the Pokemon, that's one thing. But like if you're hanging on to this so you can like sell one day, well, you might beat it before the bubble pops. The bubble's gonna pop one day. Especially if you look at the other Umbreon's like pop 20,000 already. And that's the Umbreon that started like the race.
What was it, the green box? What was that set called?
Evolving Skies.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is it really all depends because these pops are so crazy. Like compared to Yu-Gi-Oh, like even the old cards are like pop 100, you know, pop 50, stuff like that, pop 200. Compared to like the 2000 and stuff like that, it really all just depends on if enough people get hyped about it, which there's so much Pokemon hype right now. Everyone's buying in like, I got to be the guy to buy in before it goes up. It can actually somehow still go up because there's so many people into it. But as you said, like all it takes is a few people to get out of it and say, you know what, I'll take $3,000 right now. I'm good. And then like 20 people do that at once, and then all of a sudden it's like 3,000, 2,900, 2,800, you know?
We see the inverse of this in Yu-Gi-Oh all the time, actually. So when Dragon Master Magia came out, I remember there was a bunch listed on TCG Player. And I remember I texted you the next day. I'm like, what happened to all the Magia? I was going to buy one, by the way, and I chose not to buy when I opted out.
Yeah.
And but this is when the price was like $400, by the way. So
Right.
I said, I'm good. And then I changed my mind. I come back a day later. I checked TCG Player. There's not a single one listed. Apparently, some guy bought all like 30 that were there. And that guy, single-handedly, the people who had remaining cards in stock were like, oh, shit, price is going up. Let me just go ahead up the price. It went from $400 to like $1,000 within like 2 days. And I'm like, surely this is going to go down. And then it didn't. It didn't. And
because there's so few of them out there. I mean, the ratio of it's every 8 cases. I mean, there's probably only a few hundred of them like total.
Yeah.
So, and all the ones that hit the market, if you have enough money, you can just buy all 30 of them or whatever. And then guess what? You can't buy them unless that guy's selling. Like that guy or one of the few people who have like 1 or 2 or whatever. So he can kind of control what that price is until the reprint hit.
Which is funny because a lot of people for some reason thought when the reprint comes out, oh, this QCR is gonna go down $20. That's not how that works, dog. This is max rarity. This is always gonna be the max rarity version of this card. Unless they happen to release like, let's say Pharaoh Rare or let's say even Ghost Rare at some point in the future, which they might, they're not opposed to doing it, but people will still consider this probably max rarity. This card is always going to be, well, they are not going to do that. I know it's weird because, well, no, I know it's weird because it's like we're never going to reprint QCRs is what they said. Technically, I think their language actually meant like in this rarity period. But even then, this is still
Starlight's they still feel like Starlight's different. They act like it's a different rarity.
They do. I mean, you never know with Konami. That's the thing. The reason why the collector market in Yu-Gi-Oh sucks so much in modern cards is because you never know what Konami would say. Like, what if they say, "Oh, we're never gonna reprint a QCR," wink, wink, not including Starlights. They could very well do that. But I strongly doubt they're gonna do that, especially with all the backlash they've been getting lately. Again, the thing that Yu-Gi-Oh is missing is that collectible aspect that other games have. And the only way they ever really introduce those is when they bring back the classic cards. That's why I was a big fan of Stampede. Stampede gave us so many classic cards that we grew up with as kids that anybody that watched Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid now, as an adult, can be like, hey, I'm gonna buy a couple of these packs and see what I can pull. And then they pull the Blue Eyes. It's exciting. It
was cool that they had so many alt arts of Blue Eyes, Dark Magician, Red Eyes. Yeah. I know a lot of players were mad about that, but it's in the nostalgia set, so you really don't get them that often.
Exactly.
But it was so cool to have that many different versions that you could potentially get. And honestly, I like most of the arts they picked. Like, they were good arts that just hadn't had a reprint in a while. So
correct.
I thought the nostalgia set was really good this time. Though I did see some other people say they thought it wasn't nostalgia enough. But I thought it was really, really cool because it was a lot of old, but also sprinkled in the Edison, it sprinkled in the Goat, it sprinkled in everything.
I don't think it's possible to cover every card, unfortunately. Were there some slots that should have been given up? Petite Moth. Sure.
Whoa!
But like, would I have loved a QCR copy of Chaos Sorcerer? Absolutely. Would I have loved, the Cashier cards and Fenrir or Drew Swarm and the Bestials? Absolutely. Chaos Angel, a card I actually actively play. I would have loved those cards, but you can't do all of that. And again, just because one card is missing and it personally pisses you off that card is gone, I feel like it's unfair to say this entire set sucks. How are we dismissing an entire set because 1 or 2 cards is missing? Have you seen everything that's inside it? It's crazy talk. And we got the FL Stars and Alt Art. I'm also a little bit biased.
You are a little bit biased. I'm a little bit biased toward the Petite Moth. I think that one is definitely, you can definitely say that. But we kind of dipped into the Starlight Rares. I don't know if you've seen I'm sure you have. The Starlight Rares are coming back now, like instead of QCRs. Mm-hmm. So we're getting that in the Megatins. We're getting that in the core sets. And they're a lot more common. Like the Megatins are going to be in every pack. The core sets are going to be just like the QCRs. How do you feel about the upgrade in pullability and like a little bit more common?
I'm glad you said that, because one thing I hated about Starlights is how hard they were to pull. Because again, here's the issue. Nobody in Yu-Gi-Oh, like really, let me not say nobody, some people do, but the percentage of collectors to players in Yu-Gi-Oh is vastly different. Like if we're looking at Pokemon, these are the collectors and here's the players. It's a lot of people, but there's way more collectors than there are players. On Yu-Gi-Oh, it's the inverse. It's this way. These are all players and these are all the collectors. And collectors are becoming less and less because there's nothing to really collect unless you have like the nostalgia cards. What I hated about Starlights is how hard they were to pull, but there was nothing really collector worthy except for 10,000 Dragon. And 10,000 Dragon, again, it follows the same guidelines. 10,000 Dragon is the retrain, which is weird to say this is a retrain. It's a retrain of Chaos Emperor Dragon. The 10,000 dragon, the 10,000 card too is pretty cool. Outside of that, no Starlight was really collector's worthy except for maybe Stardust Dragon. And then
Stardust Black Rose, I would say.
Yeah, I was gonna asterisk to the cards I'm also missing, but like these are all like the ace monsters that you remember from the show. And it was annoying because it's like, all right, so I have to spend thousands of dollars to like max rarity this deck. And then even if I max rarity, I don't know if I want to play these. These are way too expensive to play. And QCR solved that problem. QCR's increased the pull rates for it was 1 per 2 cases to now it's 3 per case, which is a lot better, which causes the prices to go down. A lot of people are like, but my investments. Nobody gives a fuck about your investment. I'm gonna be honest with you. Nobody cares. Because most of us are players. And if you chose to invest in playable cards, that's on you, dog. That's all on you.
I will say, you've been saying, it's mostly players, not as many collectors. I will say that a lot of players are also collectors with it, like you, where they like to max rarity their decks. So this is kind of a good balance for that, where it's like, I get to play the shiny cards, but it doesn't cost me $400 a copy. Like,
that's fair.
It's like 75, it's 100. You know what I mean? It's a lot more affordable that way.
I should have said that way better, because in my mind, I'm like, when I think collectors, I'm thinking about people who just will put the cards in a binder.
I knew what you meant. I just wanted to clarify for like people watching.
There are players who are collectors. I mean, again, I'm one of those technically, but there are players who are also just collecting to max rarity their decks, and that counts toward that same asterisk.
Yeah, in terms of pure collecting, you're right about the Starlight Rares. They didn't pick cards that were pure collector pieces for the most part. They picked cards that were purely collector pieces because they were Starlight Rares. Because they've changed the rarity, it doesn't really work like that anymore. And I've seen some people are like, oh, this is terrible. Starlight Rares are common now. And
But here's the thing.
I personally was thinking like, guys, they already told us that they don't care about Starlight Rares being rare. Like they did the QCR reprint of Starlight cards. Like I kind of expected this to happen, and I'm actually okay with it.
Well, not even just that, but like the cards are still rare. That's the thing.
They're still very rare.
The cards are still rare. Nothing really changed. So that means the people that were truly pissed off, were you just investing then? And again, if you're sitting on an investment like
I will say, even if you weren't investing, if you were collecting and you pulled a $500 card and then they reprint it, it's 100. It does stink. Like it's not, even if it's not an investment,
it does. 100% does. Yeah, I agree.
Because you don't want to sell it because you're a collector, right? You're like, I want to keep this expensive card, and then they reprint it, and you're like kind of bummed out because you're like, it's a $100 card now. Like I still love it, it's cool, but in your mind you just lost $400. So I see it from that side as well.
Perfectly valid. Yeah.
I see it from that side, but at the same time, it was a little bit, it was outlandish how hard it was to pull these cards, because specific cards like 5 Starlights in a set, 1 every 25, you times that by 5, 125 boxes to get a specific one on average is completely ridiculous. I mean, like no one's opening that except like vendors and myself, and like most people are not doing that. They're just maybe buying the single or whatever. So.
See, that's all with me. I'm such a asterisk again, very unique to it. I don't care if this card is worth $7 tomorrow. This is still one of my favorite cards. It does sting. Right. It does sting seeing like, the QCRs, especially because I do this thing where I buy QCRs usually at launch. I mean, I just bought a bunch of Stampede cards from you, and actually you kind of experienced that. I bought the Diabell Stars from you at a really good price, and then they shot up. And I'm like, no, just wait. I guarantee you a week later it's gonna go down. It did go down. But like, still, at the end of the day, like the cards that I choose to collect, whether it be in Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, like I don't care if it's worth $10 tomorrow. The card is cool. That's why I got it in the first place.
Some people, unfortunately, don't have the luxury of doing that. It's like they can't afford to buy them. And so, like, let's say you can buy 1 box a week and you pull the Starlight Rare. You kind of have to sell it because, like, if you hold on to it, it's like maybe you're not in a great money situation. That Starlight could buy you 6 boxes or something, and you save them for the next releases. So it kind of puts a weird spot for those kind of people. But just to throw that out there,
I would 100% recommend if you pull a Starlight or Starlights in the future or a QCR, sell that frame 1 if you don't care about the card, because it's gonna go down. Because the thing is like even let me look up these prices. So we have, and also by the way, something else to think about is there are random factors that make something go up. For example, Sky Strike Array. I have a TCG Player pulled up. Sky Strike Array. I remember when this card came out, Magia overshadowed everything that nobody cared about anything else. I bought 5 copies of Sky Strike Array for $100 each. Now I'm seeing
like 1,000 now.
Bro, I'm seeing lightly played for $400.
What was the one that made it to 1,000 low? Was it that?
I mean, I see one near mint for $400, and I see one for $1,000, which no one's buying, by the way.
Okay. I think that's a new listing because I think the lowest used to be 1,000 on that. Like there was none listed. It was 1,000 minimum.
Something else to talk about with pricing that people don't understand: listing versus sales are two different things. If I list my entire collection, it's never gonna sell because I'm gonna list it at a price where I know it's gonna be something that's like, all right, I will sell it at this point, which is gonna be something crazy high, and no one's gonna say yes to that. But the thing is, a lot of times people will look up a card and be like, wow, this is $100,000. No, it's not.
Yeah.
So, the other thing is like this card came out, nobody cared, and then all of a sudden, when the Magia hype kind of died down, people realized, wow, we should probably get these copies of Ray. Again, it was a exclusive in a set. An exclusive in a set.
Another thing about the listing thing is, yes, people always just look up, or a lot of people will look up listing and just completely miss the price. They're like, oh, it must be that much because they listed it. There is, though, a factor with these low printed cards like Magia, like the Alt Art Ray and stuff like that. If you just can't buy them at another price, so they might just list them at that crazy number, just hoping like somebody strolls along and they're like, I want this card and there's no other way to buy it. I'll buy it at this stupid price. And that does happen occasionally. It doesn't mean the card's necessarily worth that, but it's possible to actually get a crazy sale like that on something like that. Like that Magia guy, if he bought like 30 and then he listed one at 1,000, a couple cards sold for 1,000. Like there was a couple that sold for 1,000 because they were like, "That's the only way I'm gonna get it. I gotta buy it like from this couple people that have them."
So the example I wanted to bring up is, so I bought all of Ruxin's Diabellstar, 6 copies for like 80 each, I think. That card literally shopped like 120. And I remember Ruxin was like, the price is like split. What happened? What did you do? I didn't do anything. But I remember I looked it up. Right? And I saw there were only like 5 listings. So what happened is somebody probably went through and bought them all out because again, they probably thought the same thing was going to happen with Magia. They bought them all out and they sat on it. But now I'm looking at it. The card on TCG Player, the average price is like $80, and there's so many, like 10 copies, 1 copy, 1 copy, 2 copies, 3 copies, 10 copies. Bro, it is flooded all over here. And another good one to bring up is Witch of the White Forest just came out in Aelin, and the pre-order prices for that was $200. I'm like, I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying that. I'm good. Card, it's not even out yet as of today, and it's already down to like 170 on here. The point is like, you don't need the card.
We need to talk about pre-order prices.
But do not stop paying pre-order prices. The issue with pre-order prices is FOMO. I have fallen into that trap before. When this card came back, when Appaloosa came back in Altar, I love this Altar rarity, by the way. When this card was released, I remember I saw the pre-order prices for $60. I'm like, I need to buy this now. That's cheap. Because again, in my mind, I was comparing it to Appaloosa that came out before, which again was way harder to pull. And I'm like, $60, this is insane. So I bought a lot of copies of Appaloosa for all my decks and also because I wanted to grade a couple. And then what happened to Appaloosa? Appaloosa Alt Art, let's look it up. Apple Alt Art, this is about to hurt. So I paid $60 a piece. It is $11.
Well, it did get banned, so there's that. You got
also that. But still, like, basically, don't look at prices in the first week or pre-release. Just wait a couple of days. There are gonna be, again, I keep saying asterisks because there's always like elements that happen every now and then. If a card like Dragon Master Magia comes out, or like let's say that they drop a new copy of the Dark Magicians, where it's Dark Magician Girl, and the art is insane, and it's the QCR exclusive. I'm sure that's gonna be a card that you may want to pick up in the beginning because that could shoot up because you're hitting like the collectors who grew up with it and potentially collectors who could play it and also who just want it. But cards like this are like random meta cards. Just wait, just wait. Don't fall for the trap. And another one for me is like when Azimina LZ came out, that card I waited for. I did not buy it as a pre-order price. I waited and I saw the price was not going down. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll pull the trigger. I need just 1 copy, whatever. So I paid $180. Dog, tell me why I waited like 2 weeks after release and the price was not going down. 2 weeks after release, I finally buy the card for $180 and the next day I see it at $100. And now I'm looking at it right now, it's $90, $90, $80. I'm like, bro, you cannot make this up.
It's a tough game with the pre-orders because like if it'll feel like the card that you specifically want will go up, and then you think every time after that, oh no, the cards are gonna go up, even though 90% of the time they don't. So you should usually wait, but then occasionally you'll wait and then it'll explode like you didn't buy Magia early when it was like a couple $100 and you're like, oh, it's 1,000 now. Like, what was I thinking? I missed out.
Or you can just do what Ruxin does and just spend more money to just trying to pull it.
Yeah, you could just spend a lot more than it's worth and try to pull it, which I would highly not recommend.
The other thing is like, anytime you buy any kind of card, just do your research. A lot of times people just don't do any research. Again, what the average brain does, and I understand why we do this, When someone's like, hey, I pulled a rare card, what do you usually tell them? Well, check eBay. So you check eBay, and the first thing you see is like the buy now prices, which again usually are way higher than the actual market. It's really hard to decide what a market value on a card is, especially if it's one that's super rare, because it only sells so often, and then whatever it sells for at that price during that moment was the highest price someone's willing to pay. That's not always gonna be the case. A good example, I'm about to bring out the Weiss card, hold on, is this. This is my Sakurajima. This is the Holy Grail of Weiss Schwartz. And I know a lot of you guys are like, Bunny Girl, like, what is this card? So the story of this card essentially is, you guys remember when Dark Paladin came out in 2003? We might not remember this, but Dark Paladin came out in 2003. And actually, I have it over here, so I can show you the card.
He has them all.
So this card came out in 2003. This is the art that was intended to be in Magician's Force. However, something happened where they accidentally released the other art instead. And what Konami said was, oh, if you pull this card, send us the wrong art and we'll send you the corrected art. Unfortunately, the other art is better. So nobody did it. So this card right here does not exist today anymore. All the copies that they had left over were probably just destroyed. And pretty much this now became a grail. The reverse happened with this card. So essentially they released this, and in the booster box set, they released the wrong card. So what they said was, if you pull this in the trial decks or if you pulled it in the booster boxes, send it in, we'll send you a free booster box and we'll send you the correct card. It was the equivalent of saying, hey, if you pulled Blastoise, send it in and we'll give you Charizard in a base set box. So what do? Everyone sends it in. Bushiroad then proceeded to destroy every copy of this card. There's like less than 50 left in the world. So what happened is, what is the value of this card? The first time I heard about this card was about 3 years ago when somebody in Japan traded a G311 Dark Magician Girl for this card. G311, Ruxin. You remember which one that is?
G311, isn't that like the
2000?
I'm not 100.
That was the one that only like like 100 copies were made or whatever. That was the one that was given at the
give a little rundown on that card real quick.
It's $100,000 essentially as a PSA 10. So somebody traded that for this. Wow. First time I heard about it. And I'm like, okay, well, let me do some homework. So the next couple of times this card actually traded was always some kind of trade in the value of like $100,000. Because again, the people that just want those rare things, it's like, you know, it fixed that itch that you have in the back of your brain. And it was always $100,000. So, or sometimes it'll be like, yeah, it's $50,000 cash and some slabs, or mostly slabs, but they always valued about $80,000. Bro, I get an email from someone about last year, and they're like, hey, I'm trying to find this card. Can you help me out? I'm like, no, because it's really hard to find. I think in BGS, PSA, I think it's like pop 11 as a PSA 10. And then BGS, it's pop, I think 8 for black label, and then like pop like 11 or 12 for the gold label that I have. So I'm like, I can point you right direction, but like, it's really hard to find a card like this because only so little exists. But that guy said it's my mission. So I connected him with my guy, and my guy goes, yeah, the only person willing to sell it wants 80 grand. That guy said, bet. And I'm like, huh? So they facilitated a trade, and it was an $80,000 cash purchase, which now makes it the most spent on this card was just cash. Because the thing is, like, a lot of times you can say, yeah, I'll give you a slab, and you always value the slab at max value. Like, oh yeah, I'll use Yugioh. Right. It's $100,000. That covers most of it. The reason why I'm bringing this story up is because it goes to show you how vastly different trade and resolution of getting rid of one card and getting another card, basically trading card, can be. Sometimes you can have something that can be straight cash, and now people are like, oh, this is now a $100,000 card, $80,000 card, a cash deal happened. Or the next time you see this come up, someone could be like, I'll give you $50,000 cash and a $50,000 slab, now it's $100,000. That's why I say do your research on the card before you get it, because you never know what the actual value is at the current time, because like, if no one buys this card for 2 years, the value can be a lot less. And someone could be like, I'll give you 50 grand for it. And someone's gonna be like, well, I need the 50 grand. And they'll say yes. Like that's the factor that people don't talk about. All you ever see when big deals happen is, hey, big $100,000 trade happened in private. Trust me, bro. And
it really just depends on, does someone want this card enough? What are they gonna give you? With these high-end, like super rare cards where there's only a few out there, if nobody's gonna offer you 80 grand, you might say it's worth 80 grand, but if nobody's giving it to you, it doesn't matter. Like, you're just gonna have to wait and hope that that person shows up. And then if somebody offers you 120, I mean, and they take it, that doesn't mean another person's going to pay 120. It just kind of just depends on who shows up with these crazy high-end cards.
I like how I said, trust me, bro. And I basically just gave you my trust me, bro. Like, oh, I was there for it. I saw it all go down.
I mean, to be fair, like, trust me, bro, is actually like, that's what most of these high-end cards are, because they don't actually sell on eBay a lot of the time. They don't sell at the auction houses.
I hate auction houses. Don't even get me started on auction houses. Here's my issue
All
with
right,
auction
get started.
houses.
Please get started.
Bro,
yeah.
what I hate about auction houses is I don't know who's going to these auction houses. Bro, I have seen private deals for, like, let's say first edition Shadowless Charizards go for like $150,000 to $200,000 all the time. And then you mean to tell me the next time pops up an auction house is 300 grand? Word?
Yeah.
Why don't you just get it off of eBay? Or why don't you just like talk to someone that knows someone that you can get the card at a normal price? Auction houses, every time I see a card sell in an auction house, I immediately go, all right, so whatever that value is, minus like 20% is the true value is, because auction houses will always just somehow overinflate. But here's my theory, and I can't prove this all the time. My theory is the only people that buy from auction houses are their rich friends. Because think about it. If Ruxin lists his Dark Magician girl on there and says, hey, Dino, will you buy this? And I'll just give you the money back. I'm like, sure, whatever. So he sells it. It sells for $100,000. Now, big news. Dark Magician Girl sells for $100,000. What happens to the people that really want the card? They're gonna get FOMO and try to figure out how to get it, and that's when you end up paying 100 grand for a card that's like 60. Like that's what keeps happening.
Isn't that what happened with the video game thing for a while?
Yes, but the video game thing is even worse because
it was like millions of dollars, right?
No,
for certain graded copies?
WADA did it. Allegedly, I don't know the full story, but like the story was like allegedly.
I vaguely remember some stuff about this where apparently there was like some collusion between auction house. I don't remember what auction house it was and some grading company, and they were like intentionally like they would buy it just to hype up the price, so then the next person would buy it and stuff like that. Allegedly, of course, I don't know exactly what happened. But.
Yeah, the worst part is this happens in Pokemon. Like right now, Pokemon is in a crazy high. And I have friends who are in the circles who are literally telling me like, hey, that's not a real sale, just so you know. Like, right now we're seeing a lot of Gold Stars and Skybridge Charizards selling for like record-breaking prices that are even higher than what we saw in the COVID era. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then my friends are like, that actually didn't sell for that much, but you don't know this. I'm like, why are we pretending about this? Like, can we out these people, bro?
Another weird thing about auction houses is they do that, what is it called? It's like the extra 20% you have to pay when you buy something.
Buyer's premium.
Yeah, so you have to pay like 20 extra percent. So you pay way more to actually buy off of there.
You wanna know what I found out about that? So Logic calls me up, this is in 2021, and he's like, I want the best Charizard. So unfortunately, me at the time who wasn't really too hip on auction houses, I guess this is probably why they do it. Because I hit up my friends, I'm like, yo, does anyone know where to get this card? No, because it never sells. At the time, around that time, Charizards weren't really just popping up or something like that. And anybody who had it didn't want to really sell it. So one Charizard pops up on, I think it was Heritage, I don't remember, or Auction or Golden, one of the two. And so I call up Logic and I'm like, hey, one's on here, but it's really high and the bidding is insane. And he ends up winning it for $180,000, which was a pretty good deal, I would say, for that card at the time. But then he goes, all right, I'm checking out and it says 220. I'm like, 220? You said 180. What happened? Oh, buyer's premium. So you
36K in buyer's premium.
So this is what happens. He bought the car for 180,000, but then the final sale is like 220. So the news is 220. And now it's a $220,000 sale.
But he didn't really even mean to pay 220. He meant to pay 180.
We didn't. I mean, it tells you, again, we were both new to auction houses at the time. But it also goes to show you how much. They do tell
you it's going to charge it, but it's something if you don't know, you can miss it the first time.
But it also goes to show you how inflated auction house sales could be, because it's like the higher and most expensive the card, the more inflated it's going to be, because it's like that $180,000 Charizard now is reported as 220, but it wasn't 220.
Yeah.
But now what they say is with buyer's premium and asterisk, and I'm like, no one knows what that means.
And that 20% actually adds up, because if you just add that to like a random card, like let's say LOB Blue Eyes is like 30K, it becomes 36K. Like that's $6,000 difference. Like that if you're like, oh, it just sold for 36, and it's like, well, they really were paying 30 on the card, and then there's just like a really big fee that they have to pay on top of that. So it kind of makes it a little bit muddy on what was actually getting paid for and what it's actually worth.
Yeah, that's why I don't really like auction houses as much, because it's like, I mean, at this point, I have been in the game enough to know where if there's a card that I want, I know who to talk to. And that's what I recommend people should do as well. If there's any expensive card you want, like a super luxury one, chances are there's someone you probably know or you can reach out to, like when that guy reached out to me to find that and they can get pointed in the right direction. Do your research, essentially.
There will likely be somebody willing to sell at private sale just because it's easier with all parties versus like trying to buy it through something like that. Because if someone in the middle can hook up a buyer with the person who's looking for it, then everybody's going to be happy because the buyer's like, I'm trying to sell this expensive card. Like, if I can sell it, I get a bunch of money. And then the buyer's like, please, like, show me anyone who's willing to sell it. And then the middle guy's like, hey, like, just, this guy over here. And then it just works out a lot easier than having to pay those crazy fees up top. So if you actually like look for it and like try a little bit, you can save yourself a little bit.
Also, I want to go ahead and say I hate talking about pricing in any kind of collectibles because I feel like people always get the wrong information out of it and only see dollar signs. But this is one of those rare times you're gonna get me to talk about this because me and Rux have been talking about doing videos like this for a while where we just want to educate people so they know what they're doing before they hop in. Because again, another one is like with Pokemon. Pokemon's funny because Pokemon, you'll see people who spend thousands of dollars to pull a $50 card and then they get excited about it. It's like, yeah, I pulled it. I'm like, you spent thousands on that.
I'm definitely guilty of doing that, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, but I feel that's because we're addicted to just, shiny cardboard being pulled that we're seeking. Like, I get it. But I feel like a lot of people aren't necessarily there yet. They're just kind of doing it because it's like the popular thing to do nowadays. Like, I see a bunch of streamers who keep pulling all these cards. And the thing that's also crazy to me, it's actually also cringe to me, is whenever you, like rip and shippers. Rip and shippers, I got nothing against you. What I don't like is when rip and shippers straight up give the wrong information. Bro, let me show you something. I want to have a pack here, but let's say, look at this Petite Mouth. I just pulled this Petite Mouth, right? Fresh out the pack. Both of these, right? This is not a PSA 10.
Only it was a QCR.
This is not a PSA 10. This is not a PSA 10. This is probably a PSA 9, maybe a PSA 8. A lot of times when a card is pulled on these rip and shippers, they're always selling the idea to the person that just spent money to have that pack opened. Oh, this is potentially a PSA 10. Bro, if I paid someone to open a pack for me and they pulled a hit and they tell me this is like $1,000 card, I'm going to be excited. It's going to piss me off when I get that grade back and I see a 7 or an 8 and I'm like, what happened? That's the thing. Every card that's printed usually has some kind of flaw. That's why PSA 10s are so sought after and so expensive. Stop selling PSA 10s as an idea of a card being pulled. Like at least do raw. Like a lot of times what I see rip and shippers do is they'll say, oh, raw $80, PSA 10 $500. Like that's fine. But a lot of times I keep seeing people go, oh, this is $1,000 PSA 10. Like no, it's not. Even if the PSA 10 is not $1,000, where are you getting this information from? Stop lying to the people. It's
a very fine line because I do rip and ship for whatnot, like every couple weeks. And if you're not transparent with certain people, like some people will just buy it based on what you say. So you have to be really careful about what you tell them. Yeah. Because if you say like, oh, there's a potential blue eyes in here or whatever, like it's like 30K, like we've done an LOB box break and stuff like that. You have to make sure, what I always like to do when I do the vintage boxes is to make sure, okay, here is the standard expected holos you can get out of here. Yeah. You're going to get like anywhere from 1 to 3 ultra rares. You're going to get from 3 to 5 super, something like that. Sometimes you get a really bad box and it's not in there. Sometimes you don't get a secret. Sometimes you do. There is a potential chance at an error, but it's like less than 1% chance that that's going to happen. There is a potential chance at getting PSA 10, but guess what? Most Yu-Gi-Oh cards don't get PSA 10 unless it's out of something like Metal Raiders, which grades really well. So it's really important to like kind of say that before you sell it, because then the buyers and the people involved can feel really scammed. Like if you tell them like, yeah, this is like $10,000 card, all this stuff's amazing, and then they pull nothing and they're like, oh, and they're like, I thought I was gonna get that $10,000 card, There
was nothing that would irk me more, and I've seen countless rip and shippers like do this where it's like, yeah, PSA 10. Sometimes what they do is they just say, oh, PSA 10 value is, and while that's fair, at the same time I feel like you're selling the false dream. The fair way to do it is just tell them what the value of the card is raw, and then potentially the 10. And also to think about is prices do also do this. So like what might be a PSA 10 value one day could be a lot higher the next day. Same thing with raw copies. Raw copies could be worth more, and then the next day it's a lot less. It does this. That's why the best way to do it is do all your research. You can pull up the raw card on TCG Player and see what the average is. And by the way, don't just look at the card by searching it, because what TCG Player does, which pisses me off too, is it'll say like, I have it pulled up right now. For Dragon Master Magia, for example, if I go to page 1 over here, it says $10. No, it's not $10. When you click on it, it'll tell you it's $800, but what that $10 part is, it's showing you the Korean
Korean
copy,
or the Japanese or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So any card you're going after, any card you pull, do some heavy research before you have enough information to know what something is worth.
You know another annoying thing TCG Player does? First of all, it has that preview price, which is like always wrong. It's either too high or too low because of like some reason. Then when you get in there, it has that TCG Player direct price, which is always way too high because they don't promote all the other ones that are not TCG Player direct.
Yeah.
They'll have one that's like $70, but the lowest is 20. You're like, why would I buy the $70 one? So they want you to click on that and just skip the actual research part at the bottom. And you spend triple for no reason just because the TCG Player Direct is like the first thing they list.
And then if you happen to pull something that's very playable, which it's kind of hard to understand what is playable if you don't play the games in any game. Like, for example, it's funny with Pokemon because the average collector in Pokemon is only looking for like the SIRs. They want the Umbreons, they want the Charizards and stuff, and they throw all the bulk to the side. A lot of those bulk cards are worth like $10, $20 because the players need it. So like, again, don't just throw your bulk away. Sell the bulk to whatever store, and also probably do some research to know what I tend to do if a set comes out. Like, let's say I'm pulling up Pokemon right now, and let's say Prismatic Evolution. If you do Prismatic Evolution, you do shop singles, you do price to high to low, and you can see like the most expensive cards in the set. And you can also see what people are actually play, because like these prices are based on what collectors want and what players want. And once you get past like the cards that are collectible, the reason why this Lacey, for example, is $55 is because I would assume it's a playable card. I don't know anything about this, by the way. I might be wrong. Maybe this is a collector thing as well. But like, kind of just do your research on everything that exists within a set. You know, with Yu-Gi-Oh, with Alliance Insights, I keep checking this every single day to see when the prices go down. You do shop singles, high or low, and I can kind of see the prices and then try to remember what happened yesterday. And Dragon Master Lord is it's a good price still.
QCR exclusive, and plus it's still pre-release, so keep that in mind. So it usually that changes on a Friday. So the Friday of the set release, that's when it goes to like normal people can list. So all those like pre-releases are off. It's now just like everybody's listing. So it kind of starts getting more normal from there, but you got to give it a few days for everything to get listed and everything.
For contest, Dragon Master Lord is the new version of Dragon Master Magia, essentially. But it's a pure collector card. You can't play it. This card is unplayable. This is 100% unplayable. You can probably figure out a way to play it, but it's literally a collector piece.
And I will be pulling it.
1,000% collector piece. It's a QCR exclusive, and it's the brand new, it's the Dragon of Soul and Pride, and then the Magicians basically fused together, or it's an Exceed card. I'm sure this is going to be a collectible piece down the line.
Are they doing 4 versions of this, or is there just one?
I would assume just one for this, because they haven't done any other copies in Japan yet. Because Japan, they released the Fusion, they released the Synchro, the Paladins, and then now they released the Exceed card. So, and they only have one of each. Okay.
We have one more topic that I want to cover before we go. And this is probably going to be one of the more controversial ones.
Okay.
Who to grade Yu-Gi-Oh cards with?
Ooh, I got one that you don't even do, to be honest.
Yeah, you do. Well, I only do one, basically. I am basically PSA only, which people, I once made a video and I said I thought PSA was the bet. This was a few years ago. And second most disliked video on my channel, besides the Magic video. But let's not talk about that one.
Magic video.
People were not happy about that PSA, me saying that I liked PSA the most. But we can get into it. But I know you have, is it ARS that you also grade with?
So PSA, I'm going to tell you right now, whether you're in Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, sports, well, I don't know about sports cards, but the generic TCGs, PSA, you can't go wrong. PSA has good prices. They grade a card fairly accurately. I say fairly accurately because sometimes they'll give you a PSA 9 that should be a 10 and 10 that should be a 9, vice versa. Sometimes you'll get a 10 that has like a tiny imperfection, because they have some leniency, which is nice. But PSA is the most consistent by far, and also what collectors want. So if you want to also further sell the card down the line, people recognize PSA, which is why I don't recommend going through all these third-party sites until a couple years have passed. You know, in the COVID era, a lot of new grading companies popped up because PSA and B just got swamped so badly. And a lot of these grading companies no one talks about anymore today. If someone walks up to me and says, hey, I got a RXN is supposed to be Ruxin, an RXN 10 Red Eye, so I'm gonna be like, I don't want that shit. I don't know anything about this company. I'm not gonna do any research on it, but if you say I got a PSA 10 Red Eye, so I'm like, yeah, I probably want that, you know? Honestly, end of the day, it is preference, but what I want to convey to people the most is buy the card and not the grade. Buy the card and not the grade. And what I mean by that is a lot of times, just because it says PSA 10 or BGS, well, BGS is a bit more rare for this to have an issue with. just because it's a PSA 10 doesn't mean it's a PSA 10 sometimes. Because a lot of times, human error is a thing. I mean, both me and Ruxin have seen PSA 10s to have like a dot on the corner or something. And to us, we don't consider it as true 10s. Some people will be like, I don't care. It's still a 10. One imperfection is whatever. But the issue is let's talk about Charizard. So there was a sale that happened in the PSA 10 Charizard that also happened in an auction house, I believe. It sold for like $150,000, which is way lower than what first edition PSA 10 Charizards go for. So what happened was, the reason why it sold for that low is because the back is absolutely screwed. The back has a bunch of whitening around it, and we don't know what happened to make that price go down. So essentially what happened was that card sold for $150,000. Someone probably thought they got a deal. They literally bought what it says on the slab, which is Gem Mint 10. It was not a Gem Mint 10. The back of the card, Rattle made a great video. If you want to go check out Rattle Pokemon, he made a great video like covering the entire thing. Somebody just saw that the grade and they bought the grade and that's it. Whether they plan on keeping that card and that's going to be their tent in their mind, or they're going to try to scam somebody or just resell later, we don't really know. It's not a 10. Every time you buy a card, don't just look at this. Look at everything around it. Because if I sell you this card and you're like, oh, Gem Mint 10. Oh, wow, that back is screwed. I don't want this. Go somewhere else. But what happens sometimes is people will be like, well, I'll sell it to you for cheaper. It's a week 10, they call it. And then what happens is the week 10 sells, and then the newest happens. It's like, oh my God, the card is crashing. It's not crashing. It's just an awful copy. This happened a lot with Lugia, by the way. Lugia Neogenesis, despite there being 45 10s, they're not all 10s. Some of them are very weak 10s. And I've seen one that sold a couple of months ago, if I remember correctly, if it's a Lugia I'm thinking about. It sold for like $40,000 for a 10, but it was like the equivalent of a PSA 8. And I'm like, yikes. Somebody just bought the slab essentially for that. It was not a PSA 10. But now everybody sees the news that Lugia now went from $129,000 to like $40,000. What happened? It's not that nothing happened. It's a fake 10 sold. When you're buying a 10, look at the card itself, which is where we're going to get to ultimately in here to answer your question. What's the best grade? Every grading company to what they offer is technically the same. It's just some grading companies aren't as good at grading. Let's just say that. And then you have PSA and BGS sometimes who are way too strict. So I like ARS because what ARS does is the slabs feel very much like trophies, and then they also have the grade on the back. So this is this is ARS 9 Magia. This is the Magia that I pulled, and this was originally a PSA 9 as well. And I'm like, well, let me see what ARS is. ARS specializes, for anyone who doesn't know, they specialize in Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I think they launched with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and then they started grading White Schwartz, Pokemon, One Piece, and stuff like that as well. But their slabs are nice.
And are they the only company that started with Yu-Gi-Oh cards?
I believe so, but I also might be wrong. They're only based out of Japan, so you have to live literally in Japan to be able to grade with them. You can't just ship them overseas. And I was lucky enough when I went to Japan, I just let my friend send it out who lived there, and they submitted it while I was there, and I got it back while I was still there. They are very accurate from what I've seen. Now, if I try to sell this Magia, I guarantee people are gonna be like, that's not a PSA. I don't want that. And it's like, whatever, you know. I only grade just because I like the slabs and I don't intend on selling these cards. And the same can be said about anything, whether you prefer CGC, BGS, PSA, whatever you prefer is all up to you as a person, as long as you're only willing to keep those cards. But in the future, if you want to get rid of it, you are going to have issues selling a CGC 10 copy of a card, or a ARS 10 copy of a card, or even a PSA 10 if someone's BGS. Like, it comes down to what the collector really wants, and premiums are going to differ. So that's why a lot of times you'll see like a PSA 10 will sell, let's say a PSA 10 Ruxin sells for $1,000. You might see a PSA or CGC 10 Ruxin sell for $800 because someone didn't want the PSA, or they want the CGC slab, so they opted to pay a bit less, and they got the same quality card. However, if the card is graded to accuracy, and again, if you can use your eyes and see that it's pretty good, it really doesn't matter, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think a cool part about ARS is specifically starting with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, they kind of avoid a lot of issues that I know PSA has, like where they don't necessarily know everything about Yu-Gi-Oh cards, where this grading company started with Yu-Gi-Oh, so they know how Yu-Gi-Oh cards work, what Yu-Gi-Oh cards are about, and so you have that big benefit where they actually know about the cards that you're submitting. And then they also have that factor where you're not necessarily focused on the grade, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
If it's not about resale, which the cool part about PSA is you always have that in the back of your mind. Like, well, a lot of people like PSA, and I could probably resell it pretty well.
Resale is important, unfortunately. Like, again, if you want to get rid of a card or trade after something, having a recognizable brand does help. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you showed up tomorrow and you're like, hey, I'll trade you this RX-10 Dark Magician, I'm like, I don't want that shit. Like, I don't know this company.
Yeah.
But another one to point out is BGS. BGS can't, they don't know how to grade Yu-Gi-Oh! Something about BGS, they don't understand Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, and they try to grade them too much like sports cards. And that's why if you look at the average BGS grade in Yu-Gi-Oh! You see 9s and 8s and 9.5s. You could have the most perfect card, which is funny actually, this card right here, this was a BGS 9 Mama Dark Magician Girl. There was nothing wrong with this card, right? Yeah. I sent this to ARS, it was an immediate 10. From a 9 to a 10. And I remember when I got this back from BGS, I'm like, what do you mean? Look, they said this had 9 centering. Where?
And keep in mind, this is BGS 9,
Where?
so there's like a 9.5 in the middle. There's like a lot, there's multiple grades to get to a 10. It's not like PSA 9 to 10. Like they went up like 2 grades getting to a 10 right there.
So if I was honest, the best companies for Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically right now is, I would say ARS at the top because they literally specialize in only Yu-Gi-Oh! And then everything else they do extra, but you can't obviously get to them because they live in Japan. Then it's PSA, because PSA, while they're not always 100% accurate, they are the most consistent. They're also good with turnaround times, and also the app is great. Dude, when you're grading with BGS, you can see everything. Like, it shows you all the stuff. I mean, make sure I'm not doxing myself.
You mean PSA? You said BGS. You meant PSA, right?
Yeah, sorry, PSA. Okay, and also, they have a nice way to reveal the cards, too, which is nice. Like, this is a good experience. Like, this is how it should be.
And compare that to BGS, where you send them off, and you're like, well, I guess I'll see him eventually, and you just don't know.
What's funny is I sent this batch off the same day I sent my BGS copy off, and I have not even gotten any updates in the BGS copies yet.
Yeah, trying to figure out where your BGS order is a nightmare. I don't know if they've gotten any better, because I always have terrible luck. Like you said, Yu-Gi-Oh! I always get 9s. Like, I never even get 9.5s at BGS, so I just quit, because like BGS, it's lower value and they grade harder. So I end up with 8s and 9s, and they're worth way less. So it's like, why am I grading here? Like, these cards are mint. They're like in great shape, and I'm getting 8.5s and 9s. Like, I don't know why I would even try this anymore.
But end of the day, the best grading company is what you just prefer. Some people like CGC and Tag because the card is so clear. Like, I wish CGC wasn't so garbage, which is funny. I just said, whatever you prefer. I hate CGC. CGC to me is garbage because of how they go about grading the cards, but the way the card shows off in the slab is so clear. It's so nice. Yeah,
they honestly do have, I think, the best looking slab, like in terms of like looking at the card itself in the slab. It's so nice. Like it's almost like the card's not in a slab. It looks amazing. Other than that, they have a lot of issues, so that's unfortunate.
Like, I'm showing a CGC 10 Lugia, and someone's gonna ask me, what do I hate about CGC? This was first of all, there's 2 gigantic print lines on this card. In PSA quality, this is going to be a PSA 9, PSA 8 at best. So what happened with this, the reason why this is a 10 is they originally graded this a 9.5, but then they did that stupid thing a couple years ago where every 9.5 you had was upgraded to a 10, so now this is a 10. So every time you see a 10 like this with the white label cell, the reason why the price is so cartoonishly low is because previously it was a 9.5, their version of 9.5. Yeah. They got bumped to a 10 randomly. And again, people will see the 10, they'll buy the 10. They don't care about what is the card. But then when you look at the card, you're like, there's print lines here. What happened here?
And that's another thing that, like, going back to our researching, like knowing what you're buying, like, if you weren't around for when that happened, you might have no idea that actually a lot of these 10s used to be 9.5s, and they used to do 9.5. And now they're like, actually, no, we don't do that anymore. Now we're going to change these all to 10s because we're changing our grading system. So if you didn't look into it or you weren't into it back then, you could completely miss that and end up overspending on a card because you're expecting it to be like, PSA 10 quality or something, but it's really just an old CGC 9.5.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, anything else you want to say on that before we go?
I feel like we covered a lot. What's funny is when we're going to do these videos, I thought they were all going to be separate videos. Now we got one giant hour-long podcast, essentially.
No, I figured we could just do one big podcast and then have people send in questions they want to do. And
yeah, I do like the idea of sending in questions. By the way, look how beautiful this looks.
Because then, like, there's an avenue for people, like, maybe they want to do their research. They can ask us, and maybe we can help them out. And then you could show off more of your beautiful cardboard.
I will say I'm not always an expert. I don't know how everything is, and you also don't know what's going to happen with the random variables. Like, again, if for some reason, Dark Magician Girl Apprentice just came out in Alliance Insight. The card is absolutely gorgeous, by the way. It's a little... can zoom in on it and not have. It's a little.
They didn't even.
It's
they
a little
didn't even
NFS.
nerf it that hard. Yeah, they actually kind of kept it. I was like, wow, okay.
So that card right now is valuable because one, it's a very important card to the archetype. The archetype sucks, but I'm sure that I've been trying to cook with it the past week, and I kind of figured out some things with it. The reason why that card is worth what it's worth right now, which I don't know what the price is if I haven't pulled up. It says $140. That price is because, number one, you have a combination of people who just want a brand new Dark Magician Girl, and two, it's playable. If for some reason Shining Sarcophagus gets an update tomorrow and it makes the deck very, very good, this $140 pre-order price tag will become $300 easily. And then what's going to happen is all the collectors are going to be like, oh, snap, I need to get this. They're going to want to get it too. Now you have collectors and players battling and duking it out, and the price is going to go up even more. There's a lot of random factors that you can't control sometimes that happen. So we're not going to always know everything when it comes down to it, but we can at least offer you points in the right direction to figure out all questions you need to answer for the cards you're collecting.
The important part is take everything with a grain of salt. We're telling you like what we think at the time, and keep in mind the date of the recording and everything. And then the part where you're actually learning yourself and like figuring out different things is the important part you need to take away. And then you can hear what we say. You can either agree, disagree. You can take what we said and maybe try to like compare it to somewhere else. So it'll give you something to listen to at least. So if you have a question that you want to ask us, we will do our best to answer it. Just put it down in the comments or email it to me, and I will try to make some notes for the next time we do this. And if you like it, make sure you let me know in the comments so I know to do another one.
So it's always fun to do these.
All right, guys. Make sure you shout out Rhyme Style. Go subscribe to his 1 billion subscriber channel so he can become even more famous. And that's all we got for you today.
You don't have to do that, but thanks. we'll see you in the next discussion. I know you guys got some questions. Just let us know.
Yes, that too. Goodbye.
Blue Eyes White Dragon and the left back.
So we have Transforming Sphere. Did we get
Dark Arm Dragon? Let's go!
We just have to believe. Have to believe. To believe.